I'm convinced that the little meaning in life that most people have with lots of access is what's driving issues of social justice in the church like never before. I think it's a good thing. It's a statement that meaning isn't found in stuff. But when we engage out of boredom and for our own significance, we can really make a mess in someone else's garden and life if we aren't careful. The good news is we can all change the world from where we sit. We just need to be wise about how we do it. Northwood has been involved in lots of issues: race, AIDS, Islamophobia, poverty, human trafficking, among other things, even religious freedom in a few places. Regardless of the issue, here's what I've learned. Typically, when Christians go to do religious work in a tough, closed, or difficult place, its work is shielded from governments, from society. They want to keep quiet, especially in a closed place or a difficult place. But what would it look like if everyday people engaged around their normal domain of work and served the country or the place they're working, living out their faith as connected? It's not that radical. It's how the early church spread. The result has been hundreds of people from Northwood have gone and continue to go back and forth to Vietnam all throughout the year on many different things. There are people in most places of the world and in countries we would work that are more concerned about issues in their country than we ever could be. So that's why we need to work with them. Us showing up as the Lone Ranger know-it-all is a kind of 19th century throwback to a world that no longer exists. So here's what I would say. First, it's about people. We're drawn to issues and places. Jesus was always drawn to people. We began to work in Vietnam almost 20 years ago, not because they asked us to help with religious freedom. We didn't go in with a strategy for poverty or human trafficking or special needs education or addressing religious freedom. Our focus was on connecting people, like doctors to doctors, educators to educators, artists to artists. Whatever your job was, that's what we do. That's what we continue to do. It was about kingdom work, engaging the domains of the city, and then naturally talking about the gospel, how Jesus was born and lived a sinless life, died for our sins and was raised again. But it's natural conversations, and it's listening to their story as well. As people trust you, they talk to you, they introduce you to other people, and issues naturally come up. We've now had over 100 exchange students from Vietnam who live with our church members. My wife and I have a little communist living with us this year. He's atheist. So when an issue of religious freedom came up years ago that had to be addressed, I was asked to be a part of that group, not stateside, but from the ambassador to the UN at the United Nations who was saying to me, "Bob, would you be a part of this group?" I refused. I told him, I said, "I'm not there because of your human rights." And he said, "I know that, Bob, but you know us and I want you involved in that." Here's the second thing we've learned. You've got to make a long-term commitment to people. Just dine and dash engagement or little projects, it doesn't cut it. It takes time to learn people. I had to learn the Vietnamese yes. For example, if you ask a Vietnamese if they want to do something, they're smiling the whole time, nodding their head yes, while the whole time on the inside, they're saying no. Because to them, if they say no, it's disrespectful. Someone they don't know so well, it loses face. My son went back to Vietnam last year as a businessman and had more access to the government than most people at major corporations. Why? Because of all the relationships he's developed over the years, the relationships that I've developed. That's how you do life there. Third, you've got to get outside your own understanding of an issue and see it from their perspective. It's interesting, the Vietnamese have told me, yeah, y'all have religious freedom issues now with all the Muslims in your countries. Well, we would say, well, you got to understand the issues. They see it very different. It was the French Catholics in Vietnam who colonialized the people and used religion as a way to civilize others. And the French were very brutal. And issues become more complex as well. When a tribal person who's a farmer becomes a Christian and they no longer pray to their ancestor, that's a bad thing in animism. So the siblings who are not Christian want the freedom to keep going to that land to praying to their ancestors. Well, if they can't do it, they wind up calling the police. So sometimes it's not merely religious freedom, but it's the challenge that religion has when you change religion. A Shia scholar from Iran recently told me, he said that religious freedom is about dislocation, and that's going to bring conflict. He's right on. Here's the fourth thing. You have to see the issue in light of the broader issue of the overall health of a society. So in talking about religious freedom in Vietnam, I've tried to say it's not just religion, it's freedom of thought, the ability to own your own mind and to think, how do you respond to these things? Issues of migration and globalization and all the religions growing all over the world at the same place. It's a challenge. So the alternative to controlling minds is to allow people to think and how they process. So you hold on to your values of your culture and country while making room for others. Fifth and finally, you take what you can get and celebrate what you can get. It's not all or nothing. My last trip to Vietnam, when I met with the government leaders, at their request, they were asking if I would bring pastors from America to visit Vietnam so they could see what's going on firsthand, to meet with top leaders there. Led to discussions about a conference that we're going to have called How Faith Builds Society. And it's going to be the story of Northwood and other people of faith, how that they've literally helped build Vietnam. They're bringing the 7 religions together, scholars from Vietnam. They've invited me to bring top scholars from America, and the whole conference is going to center around that. But it didn't start with that conference. It took those other 5 things first.